The Mother-in-Law by Janson Davies. Chapter 1. Love on the High Seas. William Carey had never been the impulsive type. He was the kind of man who read instruction manuals cover to cover, who double-checked the expiration dates on canned goods, and who believed that love, like everything else, should be approached with caution and logic. So, when he booked a singles cruise to the Bahamas, it wasn't in search of romance. It was a calculated attempt to escape the monotony of his quiet life in New Mexico. The ship was a floating palace of indulgence, sun-drenched decks, endless buffets, and strangers who danced like they'd known each other forever. William felt out of place, like a misplaced comma in a love poem. That is, until he met Mara. She was unlike anyone he'd ever known. Her presence was magnetic, her laughter a melody that made the ocean breeze seem to harmonize. She spoke with a gentle accent he couldn't quite place, and her eyes held a depth that made him forget the world around him. They met at a trivia night, bonded over obscure facts about ancient civilizations, and ended the evening walking along the moonlit deck, sharing stories that felt like confessions. By the second day, they were inseparable. They danced under the stars, whispered secrets in quiet corners, and kissed like the world might end tomorrow. William felt something he hadn't felt in years: alive. On the third day, Mara took his hand and said, "Let's not wait." He blinked. Wait for what? For the rest of our lives. It was reckless, it was absurd, it was perfect. They were married by the ship's captain in a ceremony that felt like a dream. The ocean stretched endlessly around them, a witness to their improbable love. Strangers clapped and cheered, and William, for the first time in his life, didn't care about the rules. Neither of them had met the other's family. Neither asked too many questions. It didn't seem to matter. In that moment, love was enough. When the cruise ended, William brought Mara home to his modest, adobe-style house in the New Mexico desert. The sun was warm, the air dry, and the future uncertain. But William didn't mind. He had Mara, and that, he thought, was all he'd ever need. Chapter 2. Homecoming. The drive from the airport to William's home was quiet, but not uncomfortable. Mara gazed out the window, her fingers tracing invisible patterns on the glass as the desert unfolded around them. Golden sands, jagged mesas, and the occasional tumbleweed rolling like a forgotten thought. William glanced at her, wondering what she saw. To him, this landscape was familiar, even mundane. But Mara looked at it like it was sacred. "This place," she said softly, "feels ancient." He smiled. "It's not much, but it's home." His house sat on the edge of Cedar Creek, a sleepy town where neighbors waved from porches, and the biggest excitement was the annual chili cook-off. The adobe walls were sun-bleached and cracked in places, the roof sloped and patched with care. It wasn't grand, but it was his. Mara stepped inside and turned slowly, taking in the modest living room, the worn leather couch, the shelves lined with books and knickknacks. She touched a ceramic owl with reverence, as if it were a relic. "I love it," she said. William's family arrived that evening, eager to meet the woman who had swept him off his feet. His mother brought homemade enchiladas, his sister brought wine, and his father brought a skeptical eyebrow that quickly softened when Mara greeted him with warmth and grace. They adored her. She was everything they'd hoped for William, elegant, kind, and clearly smitten. His mother whispered to him in the kitchen, "She's a keeper, Will. You did good." William felt a swell of pride. Maybe this impulsive marriage wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was fate. As the evening wore on, Mara told stories of her childhood, boarding schools, travel, a life that sounded both privileged and peculiar. She spoke in generalities, never naming places, always skimming the surface. William noticed but didn't press. Everyone had secrets. After the guests left and the house grew quiet, Mara stood on the porch, staring up at the stars. "Do you ever wonder what's out there?" she asked. William joined her, wrapping an arm around her waist. "Sometimes, but tonight I'm more interested in what's right here." She leaned into him, but her eyes never left the sky. The next morning, Mara received a message. Not a phone call, not a text, something else. A small device she kept hidden in her luggage pulsed with light and emitted a soft chime. She stared at it for a long time before turning to William. "My mother is coming," she said. William blinked. "Coming here?" She nodded. "She's different." "How different?" Mara hesitated. "She's not from around here." William laughed. "You mean out of state?" Mara looked at him, her expression unreadable. "No," she said. "Farther." Chapter 3. The Ceramic Owl. The desert had a way of keeping secrets. William liked that about it. The quiet, the stillness, the way the wind whispered through the mesquite trees like it was telling stories only the land could understand. He'd built a life here with Mara, simple, steady, filled with books and coffee and long walks under stars that didn't judge. But tonight, the stars felt watchful. He was in the kitchen, drying dishes, when Mara froze mid-step. Her eyes flicked to the window. "She's here." William turned. "Who?" "Your mother." Mara didn't answer. She walked to the front door, her movements deliberate, almost ceremonial. She opened it slowly. An alien stood on the porch, tall, regal, naked. Her skin shimmered like oil on water. Her ears were pointed, her eyes were the color of deep space, and her presence made the air feel heavier. William blinked. "Is this—" "My mother," Mara said. Queen Elza stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. She looked around the modest living room with clinical detachment. Her gaze landed on the ceramic owl perched on the mantel, a thrift store find William had insisted on keeping. She tilted her head. "A primitive idol?" William cleared his throat. "It's an owl." "A symbol of wisdom," Mara added gently. Queen Elza said nothing. She walked to the couch and sat, her posture perfect, her expression unreadable. William leaned toward Mara. "You said she was distant. You didn't say she was interstellar." Mara gave a tight smile. "She doesn't usually visit, especially not without a fleet." Queen Elza spoke, her voice layered and melodic. "I have come to retrieve my daughter." William's stomach dropped. Mara stepped forward. "I'm not going." Queen Elza's eyes narrowed. "You would abandon your legacy for this?" She gestured to the room, the mismatched furniture, the dusty bookshelf, the ceramic owl. William felt the heat rise in his chest. "This is her home." Queen Elza turned to him. "You are the reason she was exiled." William didn't flinch. "I'm the reason she's free." Silence. Then Queen Elza stood. "I will stay 1 week to observe." Mara's jaw tightened. "You don't get to decide that." "I do," the Queen said, "if you wish to remain." She walked to the window, staring out at the desert. Earth is fragile, but perhaps it has its uses. William looked at Mara. "Is she always like this?" Mara sighed. "She hasn't changed, but I have." William looked at Mara closely. "I don't see the family resemblance." "I take after my father's side of the family. They're from a planet more human in nature," she said. Outside, the wind picked up, scattering dust across the porch. Inside, the ceramic owl watched silently, as if bracing for the storm to come. Chapter 4. Between Two Worlds. William couldn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft hum of Queen Elza's presence downstairs. It wasn't a sound exactly, more like a vibration in the air, a subtle shift in the atmosphere that made the house feel watched. Mara sat beside him, legs crossed, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She hadn't aged since the day they met. He'd always chalked it up to good genetics, but now he wondered what kind of genetics she actually had. "You said you were born on Renali-7, he whispered. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Mara didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached for the small wooden box on the nightstand, the one she'd never let him open. She placed it between them and slid off the lid. Inside were fragments, a shard of crystal that glowed purple, a folded piece of cloth embroidered with symbols, and a photo, grainy and faded, of a young Mara standing beside Queen Elza in a garden of glowing trees. "I wanted to be normal," she said. "I wanted to choose this life. You." William picked up the photo. "You look happy." "I was. But Renali-7 isn't like Earth. It's beautiful, yes, but it's rigid, structured. Every emotion is catalogued, every relationship monitored. My mother rules with precision. She loves me, but she doesn't understand me." He studied her face. "And Earth does." "No," she said with a soft laugh, "but it lets me try." Downstairs, a light flickered. Queen Elza was awake. Mara stood. "She didn't come here just to visit. Something's wrong." William followed her down the stairs, heart pounding. The Queen was seated at the dining table, her skin flowing like liquid metal. In front of her hovered a holographic display, images of Renali-7, its twin moons, and a map marked with red zones. "She's showing us the fractures," Mara said. "Renali-7 is destabilizing, political unrest, environmental collapse. She wants me to return." William's throat tightened. "And you?" Mara looked at him, eyes full of conflict. "I don't know." Queen Elza turned to William and spoke again in her layered tongue. Mara translated. "She says Earth is too primitive to protect me, that I belong with my kind." William stepped forward. "She's wrong." The Queen's gaze narrowed. "I may not have glowing skin or a spaceship," he said, "but I love your daughter, and I'll fight for her even if I have to fight you." Mara's breath caught. Queen Elza stood, her towering form casting shadows across the room. She approached William, studying him with unreadable eyes. Then, slowly, she extended her hand. A test. William took it. The Queen's touch was cold, electric. For a moment he saw flashes, memories not his own. Mara, as a child, floating through crystalline halls, her laughter, her rebellion, her exile. Then it was gone. Queen Elza nodded once. "He is sufficient," she said in English. William exhaled. "Thanks." Mara smiled. "That's the closest thing to approval you'll ever get." Chapter 5. Observation Protocol. The next day, Queen Elza rose with the sun. She didn't sleep, not in the human sense. Instead, she entered a meditative state that allowed her to process data, memories, and strategic simulations. When William came downstairs, she was already seated at the kitchen table, examining a toaster with the intensity of a biologist studying a new species. "It incinerates bread," she said. William blinked. "It toasts it." She looked unimpressed. "Primitive." Mara entered, dressed in jeans and a faded concert tee. Queen Elza's eyes narrowed. "You dress like a laborer." "I am one," Mara replied. "I work at the library." Queen Elza tilted her head. "You were trained in diplomacy, planetary law, and quantum ethics. You shelve books?" "I recommend stories," Mara said. "I help people find themselves." The Queen said nothing. Instead, she began her observation protocol. She followed Mara to the library, disguised in a long hooded coat and sunglasses that made her look like a very confused fashion icon. She watched Mara interact with patrons, laugh with children, and help an elderly man find a book on desert gardening. Queen Elza took notes, mental ones. She catalogued every interaction, every inefficiency, every emotional nuance. That evening, she confronted Mara. "You waste your potential." Mara didn't flinch. "You misunderstand it." Queen Elza paced the living room. "You could lead a planet. Instead, you serve one." "I chose this life." "You chose exile." William stepped in. "She chose freedom." Queen Elza turned to him. "You are the anomaly, the variable. She was stable before you." William met her gaze. "She was silent before me." That stopped her. For the first time, Queen Elza seemed uncertain. She walked to the ceramic owl and touched it again. "This object has no function." "It watches," Mara said. "Like you." Queen Elza studied her daughter. "You believe this life has meaning." "I know it does." The queen sat down, her posture less rigid. "Then show me." Chapter 6. The Taste of Emotion. Queen Elza agreed to Mara's challenge, to experience Earth not through data but through feeling. They began with music. Mara took her to a local jazz bar, dim lights, velvet booths, and a saxophone that wept like it remembered every heartbreak in the world. Queen Elza sat stiffly at first, her senses overwhelmed by the chaos of sound. But as the melody deepened, her expression shifted. She closed her eyes. "What is this?" she asked. "Improvisation," Mara said. "Emotion without a script." The queen said nothing, but her fingers tapped the table in time with the rhythm. Next came food. William cooked a meal, chili with cornbread, simple but rich. Queen Elza examined each bite like a scientist, then paused mid-chew. "There's history in this," she said. William smiled. "It's my grandmother's recipe." The queen looked at him. "You preserve legacy through flavor?" "Through love," Mara added. Later, Mara took her mother to the cemetery. They stood before a modest headstone. Eleanor Grant, 1942 to 2010. "She taught me how to read and how to forgive." "She was my mentor," Mara said. "She taught me that grief isn't weakness. It's proof that something mattered." Queen Elza knelt beside the grave. "On Renali-7, we erase pain. We archive loss. Here," Mara said, "we carry it." That night, back at the house, Queen Elza sat alone in the living room. She stared at the ceramic owl, then at the stars beyond the window. William approached quietly. "You saw what Earth is." Queen Elza nodded. "It is illogical, but it breathes." She turned to him. "You love her." "I do." "She may never rule. She may never return." "I know." Queen Elza looked at Mara, who was curled up with a book, her crown buried in the sand outside. "She is no longer mine," the queen said. William placed a hand on her shoulder. "She's still your daughter." Queen Elza closed her eyes. "Then let me learn to be her mother." Chapter 7. Royalty in the Guest Room. Queen Elza didn't know how to make toast. William found her in the kitchen, staring at the toaster like it was a diplomatic puzzle. Mara leaned against the doorway, amused. "You press the lever," she said. Elza did, cautiously. The toaster clicked. She flinched. "I've negotiated peace treaties between warring moons," she muttered. "This machine mocks me." Life with a queen in the guest room was strange, but not unbearable. Elza began to adapt. She learned to water plants, sort laundry, and even drive, though William insisted she stick to parking lots for now. She attended town hall meetings, asked questions about zoning laws, and once tried to reorganize the library's cataloging system based on Renali-7N logic. Mara stopped her. You're not ruling Earth, she said. You're living in it. Elza nodded. Then I must learn its rhythms. She began journaling, something she'd never done on Renali-7. Her entries were filled with observations, the emotional weight of silence, the unpredictability of weather, the strange comfort of shared meals. One evening, she joined Mara and William on the porch. The desert was quiet, the stars bright. I used to believe legacy was forged in conquest, Elza said, but here it seems to grow in gardens. Mara smiled. And in hearts. William raised his glass. To the queen who stayed. Elza clinked her glass against his. To the daughter who taught me how. Final chapter. The hearth and the crown. Spring arrived slowly, coaxing color from the desert. The Renali-7 seed bloomed into a tree unlike any Earth had seen. Its leaves shimmered at dusk. Its roots hummed softly beneath the soil. Mara tended it daily. She still thought of the crown sometimes, in private moments. Not as a ruler, but as a reminder of what she'd left, of what she'd chosen. Queen Elza remained in the guest room, though she'd begun calling it her quarters. She taught occasional seminars at the local college on diplomacy, ethics, and the philosophy of exile. Students adored her. She never smiled, and she kept herself hidden under scarves and heavy clothing, but they swore they saw her eyes soften. William continued teaching, though his lectures now included subtle nods to interstellar politics and the power of love over law. He and Mara spent weekends hiking, reading, and hosting dinners where Elza would critique the seasoning with regal precision. One night, Mara stood in the backyard, staring at the stars. William joined her. "Do you miss it?" She nodded. "Sometimes, but I don't regret staying." He took her hand. "Neither do I." Behind them, the tree pulsed gently, its light casting long shadows across the sand. It was a symbol, not of power, but of possibility. And in the quiet desert, beneath a sky that had once felt distant, a family sat together, not bound by blood or crown, but by choice. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon or notifications.